You know what they say, it's never too late to start something new. Well, today's guests prove that. Joy Ryan didn't get a passport until she was 91 years old. She and her grandson Brad are currently on an around the world adventure, visiting all 7 continents. And this incredible journey isn't just about travel, it's also about forgiveness and overcoming difficult family dynamics. And we all have those, don't we? Well, with each passport stamp, they are proving there is no age limit on writing an epic flip your script story. Grandma Joy and Brad, thank you for joining me. I'm excited to hear your story on the podcast.
Thanks for
We're
having
glad to
us.
be here.
All right, Grandma Joy, I'm starting with you. 91 years old. You got your passport then. You're a bit older than that now. What made you say, hey, let's travel the world?
Well, it didn't start out that way. It was supposed to be just one trip to the Smoky Mountains. And we had such a good time, we decided, heck far, we'll just keep on going. So that's what we did.
And how long ago was that when you started your very first trip together?
85. The
85 years
Smoky
old.
Mountains.
You're 85 years old.
We started in the fall of 2015.
And Brad, many people love their grandparents and even they love their parents, but to think about an epic trip with them like this is just past the bounds of what they would be willing to do. What about this is so exciting for you?
Well, I think it's exciting to a lot of people who follow us on, social media at Grandma Joy's Road Trip because it's a universal. I think we all have a universal nostalgia for grandparents, first of all. That cuts across all aspects of society and culture, but we're also, we have a shared humanity, the common denominators that we're all getting old every second. And I think that we are set up to think about aging in a very negative way, that there are inherent limitations, that we're going to, lose our social status, we're going to lose our value as human beings. And to see a woman like Grandma Joy really begin her era of adventure at age 85 and to be able to sustain that for nearly a decade, I think that's showing everybody, no matter how old they are, that really we have that ability to do a pivot. It's a choice. And I think there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of hope in that.
I love that about following your social media and the people who are following you. And Grandma Joy, you're an influencer now. I saw a couple of days ago, you're talking about what you're putting in your hair.
We decided to see what happened. So I guess it's the first time for everything.
What is that like? I mean, when you were your grandson's age, social media wasn't a thing. You couldn't even tell your whole neighborhood you were going to the grocery store. And now here you are telling everyone on the planet where you are on the planet. How's that for you?
Oh, it's kind of amazing. It really is. But we wanted to get people up out of the chair and get them on their feet. So we hope that's been accomplished.
Boy, it's certainly inspiring. Brad, I know that right now you two are in Ohio, you're between trips. So you're not just like going around the world in one fell swoop. You go someplace and then you kind of come back. Talk about the cadence of your travel and where you've been.
Well, the original plan was a one and done camping trip in the Great Smoky Mountains. My grandmother told me when she was 80 years old that she never saw a mountain. And I had hiked the Appalachian Trail. I had worked in Africa with wild carnivores, and I got to do a lot of things that many people from our small town never get to do. I didn't take it for granted necessarily, but I wasn't thinking about what it would really be like to have my worldview limited to one traffic light town, a single traffic light town in Ohio. And so there was so much joy wrapped up in that first camping trip where she fell off the air mattress twice and laughed both times, and not only saw a mountain but climbed one with me 2.5 miles up, that it was just sort of a missing light in my life after it was over. As I graduated from vet school and moved into my first career, I just kept going back to that weekend, and it's like, how could I can't recreate that magic, but how can I extend it? And so the fascination with the national parks, I thought, well, what would be our second park? Probably Yellowstone. Let's go there. But then I saw all the parks we could stop at along the way. So that's where the seemingly impossible idea of taking her to all 63 national parks came from. And that was, we thought that that would take us our, at least her entire lifetime, if not mine, to be able to accomplish something that huge. Because logistically, it's crazy. We're talking about 8 national parks in Alaska, many of which don't have a road. Hawaii, U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, which is like 7,000 miles from her front porch, and Duncan Falls, Ohio, way out in the South Pacific. So that took us almost 8 years to complete. And we had to get a passport to go to American Samoa, even though that's part of the United States. They have their own immigration system. And so we've got this like passport with one stamp in it. It just seemed like a crime. And we needed a new adventure at that point because there were no more national parks to see. So we went to Canada, so we didn't feel like cheaters as far as North America goes. So we've gone to North America. We've gone to Kenya on an African safari, and then we just returned from South America. We went to the Galapagos, and we also went down to Santiago, Chile. So it's been really, really thrilling adventure, and we have more plans coming up. We have Antarctica in the fall, Iceland with the Northern Lights in January. So, as far as I'm concerned, as long as she's willing to, get on the airplane, was my passenger seat. Now it's the airplane. There's plenty of magic to squeeze out of life.
Oh, it's so fun to hear someone talk about aging and to talk about all that's possible, because I so agree with you, Brad, that people talk about it as if it's this terrible thing, like, oh, I'm getting old. And boy, I'm looking at, grandma across the screen here, and there's nothing on grandma's face that says, oh, feel bad for me, I'm getting old.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what we're all looking to. We're looking to some people that are paving that road for us, that road for um, resilience and hope, and really being present in your life at every age and knowing that it's still happening, not that the best years are behind you. We always hear so much about that. And I realize not everybody's lucky to have a grandmother that's physically capable, but once again, I don't think she got there by accident. I think that she's had this attitude her whole life that I'm gonna keep moving. I'm gonna stay optimistic even when bad things happen to me. I'm going to find purpose, even if I'm limited to my small town. I'm going to find something meaningful to do with my life, whether that's go read to little children at our local elementary school or make sandwiches for the impoverished in our community. So she's always had sort of the magic sauce, I think, that got her to this point.
Well, Grandma Joy, you are the oldest person to visit all 63 national parks. You're still, in the middle of the epic adventure. And many people look to you and say, boy, what is the secret? What she found, the fountain of youth. How did she find it? So Grandma Joy, what is your advice for people who don't have a smile on their face at 40, much less 70, much less 90?
Well, if you stop to think about things, you see that you are really better off than hundreds and hundreds of people. Even if you you have your health, look at all the people that are not able to do those kind of things. So try to stay positive. Just think, well, let's see what's going to happen today. And so that's the way to look at things, I think. And be ready to give anybody a helping hand that needs it.
So you really have approached every day, even the days when you're in your small town and you're not going anywhere that day. You're approaching that day as its own adventure.
Right. Well, I walk every day, and you be surprised at people that you see. If you just have to smile and say, isn't this a great day? Maybe that's the only person who talks to them all day. You never know. So it's just try to look on the sunny side of the street. That's the best way to do it.
Have you found the travel challenging physically, or not so much?
No, I got a little bit tired in Alaska because it was just jump on a plane, jump on the train, jump on a boat, climb the mountain, but it was fun. I wouldn't have missed out on that for anything. We got to see the bears and see them catch the fish, and it was really a thrilling trip. That's one thing I always wanted to see my whole life was the bears catching the fish, and I finally got to do it.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And one of the things about aging, the gift side of it is that you have wisdom and you've seen a lot of things, and you realize that some days are great and some days are difficult, but you get to choose your attitude. That's the thing that we get to choose. But you also have some difficult family situations. And I know that your relationship hasn't always been what it is right now. And I mentioned at the beginning, part of your message is about forgiveness, and part of what you're talking about is healing and family relationships. So Brad, if you could give us some insight into how you got to the place as a family where you want to spend this kind of time with someone who for a while you didn't even speak to.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky in the sense that I had an opportunity to hike the Appalachian Trail in 2009. So at this point, we'd been estranged for almost a decade. And I don't know if it would have happened, this road trip with my grandmother, had I not had that 6 months of reflection in the wilderness. That's all I had was my hiking poles and my thoughts, and the backpack on my back. And just like on the road, really, you spend so much time on the trail, it just becomes like a hypnosis, and memories are conjured up, and you're just thinking about where you can take your life from there after this is over. Where do I go after this trail is over and I'm left with everything that I was trying to run away from? What do I do with that ball of clay? And so it was a very scary thing for me to do, I think, and it didn't really mesh with anything that I'd ever learned in my family. We are a family of grudge holders, and I think that a lot of people can relate to that. There's a lot of dysfunction in families across the country, around the world. Um, one fight can change the course of a relationship forever. And so I just decided that I I did not want my life story to be that my grandmother died and all of my warm fuzzy memories were from before the family rift. That I actually did have a great grandmother, a wonderful grandmother, a dynamic grandmother, a grandmother who instilled a lot of values in me as far as loving animals and nature. Uh, and so it was a very scary thing for me to do after almost 10 years of not speaking, to call her up. And she was a sore person at that point and very angry at me, bitter, I think. I mean, she could speak for herself, but I think her feelings were hurt. Certainly mine were, and it took some time. You can't just say, hey, that last decade, let's just forget about that. But what you can do is make a commitment to building something better than what existed before. And so that's really, I did it so that I would not feel regret later. And minimizing future regret has been a big, um, I think it was not only the impetus for the trip, I think it was the fuel to keep going, to minimize future regret, to make sure that inevitably, if she's no longer here, then we change the way we treated each other. And honestly, her life story, you know 95% of the adventure is packed into 85 to 94 and still going, which is very unusual, but I'm doing it also to show myself how my life can play out if I show up for it.
Grandma Joy, what about you? When he called you after 10 years, what was that like?
Well, it was like, of course, like meeting a stranger. He changed a lot in that many years. But I figured if he was willing to go halfway, I would go halfway. So that's the way we did it and took off from there.
How long did it take until you said, okay, you know what, we're gonna forgive? You can't forget necessarily, but you can forgive and heal and choose to look forward instead of look behind. Was it 6 months? Was it a year? Was it like, how long did that take?
I
We
don't
don't know.
even, yeah, I don't, go ahead, Grandma.
Yeah. I said, we were like in the car and it just kind of went along gradually. We were cooped up together and it's either get along or get out.
And she said it perfectly, because I couldn't point to a single moment in time, because it was there was an ebb and a flow to how our relationship has evolved, and how forgiveness has become easier. I think you really do have to fake it till you make it. I think you tell yourself you know what forgiveness is, um, but when it really has happened, you don't even have to think about it. You just walk you walk through life differently. There's a freedom that comes from forgiveness. There's a lightness to it that sets you free. And my I when I became estranged from my grandmother, I became estranged from my father at the same time. It was a fight that happened, and I carried that even as this was going on with my grandmother, and I had demonstrated forgiveness. In some ways, I felt like a bit of a hypocrite, because I had not forgiven my father. And so it's complicated, that idea of forgiveness. It's very relationship specific, and there's so many things that factor into it, and part of it is just a willingness to show up for each other. And so I think that's what my grandmother and I had that was lacking with the relationship with my father. But ultimately, we've shown each other that we're capable of extending that to other people too.
I think this part of your story is the reason that it has resonated the way it has. Certainly, traveling at the age that you are, Grandma Joy, is inspiring to people. But I don't think that your story would have gotten the national news attention and the followers you have, and USA Today, and all the places your story has been. And it was one of those national news articles that crossed my social media feed. That's how I first learned about the two of you. I think it's resonated because you're being vulnerable in how you got here. And so many people can resonate and connect with that part of your story, that it hasn't been this perfect relationship for your whole lives, because very few people know what it's like to have a perfect relationship with someone their whole life. I don't think that's possible. And you're opening up about it. And what I give you so much credit for is that you're using your platform to talk about the thing that you could have never talked about. This whole trip could have been just grandma, grandson, 7 continents, 63 national parks. And you made a conscious decision to say, you know what, we're going to tell the part of this that we didn't really need to tell anyone outside of our family. But you live in a small town, so probably everybody knows. But why did you choose to open up about the healing that was required and the difficult conversations and times that led up to, hey, let's get in a car and go together?
It was I mean, we were almost halfway through the journey. We were at Park 29 when the story went viral, and that had nothing to do with a conscious decision on our part. It was yeah, it went out into the universe over social media, and then the news organizations around the world descended on us. And so we didn't expect to find ourselves in that position, first of all. And there were so many layers to the story that I found it very challenging to even bring it up, because how do you actually give that, just how do you do right by that element of your story in a 3-minute news interview or something like that? It's really more for me to tell in a book, which I'm doing. But there were other aspects of it as well. I mean, it was my mental health. I was in vet school. I had been struggling with suicidal ideation. A second-year vet student committed suicide, and that's when I called her, and we embarked on that first journey while I was in in the midst of the hardest trial of my life, and we were able to escape that for one weekend, and it completely shifted everything for me personally, but also in our relationship. And so it was, I think, I think it was just the wisdom that comes the first time you kind of put your toe in the water, and you realize that it took a little bit of the sting of the shame away, and then you go in a little deeper and a little deeper until you finally start to realize that, without oversharing, of course, that there's real power in that raw vulnerability that you just talked about. Just taking the veil off and showing your true self. And then inevitably what happens is people are like, oh yeah, I see that part of you reflected in me. That's where the shared humanity starts to really allow us to empower each other. So I don't know how to answer that other than to say that that it was the absolute truth, that this was about trying to heal myself and improve my mental health. It was also about trying to end a legacy of grievance in my family that had rotted me from the inside out. And like I said, it's about, at the end of the day, showing up for your life and and really saying that, you know what, whatever seemingly impossible goal I want to set for myself, even if I don't get there, if it changes the trajectory of my journey in life, then it was worth setting that goal, and it was worth that pursuit. And the abundance of love that has come from that decision is indescribable.
And Grandma Joy, you were when you entered adulthood, different time, things like mental health and family fighting and politics, all the things that are just common conversations at any coffee shop across the country right now, were things that no one talked about. We don't talk about family issues. We don't talk about what we're dealing with. We don't talk about when we leave this house, we're good. Make sure we look good. Make sure we sound good. We can deal with whatever we're dealing with when we get back home, right? I mean, how many
Right.
people, sat in a church pew every Sunday, like they had been fighting like cats and dogs on the way there, but you walk in the church doors and you're like, we're good. Smile. Look, we're good. Our clothes aren't wrinkled. We're good. And then you get back home and kick it back up. And people don't live like that anymore. How have you, Grandma Joy, changed your mindset around the things that we didn't used to talk about now? Not only do we talk about them, we put them on social media.
Right. And every radio station, every TV station has got that on front and center. And so, but back in the old days, you just talked about how the crops come in and whether it's going to rain and gather the eggs and things like that. So now it's just a different world out there. It's completely turned around. It's nobody even a lot of people in these big towns don't even know their neighbors. So it's just shifted from family to worldwide. That's all there is to it. So anyway.
Do you miss that about, when you think about the old days? Because one of the things that is impressive, I think, about how you've aged and how you talk about aging is that you talk about the past as something that happened, not something that you're holding on to. And to think about aging well and to think about the future and to get excited about the future means that you have to some degree, let go of the past and honor it for what it was, but look excitedly into the future. And many people at certain ages, even starting as young as, 40, 50, really hold on to the past and can't quite get excited about the future because they're just more excited to look at the past and to say, boy, it was so much better then. And you're a walking passport holding reminder that, oh no, the future is exciting and bright, and walk boldly into it. So all of that said, Grandma Joy, how that is so countercultural to, at your age, look to the future with excitement as opposed to complain all day about all that it used to be. In my days, it was better. And you didn't say that. You didn't say in my days it was better. You said it was different.
Yes. Everybody was kind of like close-knit family. And with reunions and all that, everybody nowadays, it's a different mindset. Everybody has to everything's so expensive. People have to work to help their families, and um, you know, back then there was nothing to look forward to. You know, just from milking the cow to what's next. But now, if you stop to think and look and really watch the TV and watch the news, don't watch all those silly stories. It makes you stop and think, well, I'd like to see that someday. You know, I like to watch all the stories about the animals and the world, how the different things go on. And you know, you don't want to be an old fuddy-duddy and keep saying, well, this ain't the way it used to be. You know, you just kind of have to say, what the heck, let's get on with it. So that's the way we need to be.
Oh, what the heck? Let's get on with it. I love that. That would make a good tattoo, Grandma Joy. What do you think?
I might try that. I never had one.
There you go. There you
That'll be
go.
something different. I could show it on TV, but it depends on where you got it.
True. I don't know. Wherever you put it, I suspect it would go viral. I suspect it would go viral. But Brad, when you think about how she talks about the future, how do you, when you're 95, 105, make sure that that's where your mind stays?
It's a high bar. And I just think it's not only a commitment I have to myself, it's a commitment that I have to everybody I meet to share that mantra of Grandma Joy. You know, it's what we all need. And I think that it's possible as long as we remember, while we have the ability to reach out and connect with people and build our social network so that we're not lonely. And as long as we do as much as we can, the best that we can every day to stay active and remember that we're all the ages that we've ever been as we continue to get older. And we're never, you know, maybe our knees are getting more sore, but as you get older, you've hopefully acquired so much wisdom that you can navigate challenges with greater ease. And I see it as a gift to be 94. And I think about that a lot. Like, I hope I'm as lucky as she is. But if I'm not, you know, at least I've gotten to experience all of these amazing moments in life with my grandmother.
And she mentioned that her favorite thing was, you know, her dream was to see the bears and the fish. What has been your favorite thing to see so far? Or is it the next thing? Is it the Northern Lights? Is it something coming up in the future?
Yeah, it's all of it. But when we were in Kenya, that was particularly meaningful to me because she got her first passport at 91. I got my first passport at age 19. And I just realized that the numbers, going in the book. Anyway, I just remembered that. But yeah, I was 19 years old. I got my first passport, and she took me to the airport in Columbus, Ohio, to go to Kenya with my fellow students at Miami University. And that was really bittersweet because it was my lifelong dream to go on African safari, but it was also so sad to think about my grandma being back even getting on that airplane and leaving her behind in Ohio. I thought she would have loved this experience to be able to see wild elephants and giraffes and all these things. And, you know, just a year and a half later, we stopped speaking to each other. And so the idea that things could turn around in such a way that at age 91 she would actually get that passport, and it was last summer that we went to Kenya together, and she got to see Mount Kilimanjaro, which I climbed during vet school during my 4th year when I was working over there. So that was, you know, to be able to see your grandmother and an African elephant in the same frame is quite remarkable. It's the greatest gift of my life, honestly.
Oh, what an amazing adventure the two of you are having, and I applaud you for sharing it. And I'm glad that it ended up going viral because you're certainly inspiring a lot of people in a lot of different ways. The last question I have for each of you is there a quote that you would share with us that has inspired you as you've traveled relationally and physically. Grandma Joy, let's start with you.
Well, hope is what enables us to keep going in the face of adversity. It is what we desire to happen, but we must be prepared to work hard to make it so.
Ooh, I love that. Hope for the future. Always, that's that looking ahead mindset. It's
Right.
fantastic. Thank you.
Mhm.
Brad?
And for me, it was a wake-up call that I had a few years ago when I heard Brene Brown say, vulnerability is hard and it's scary and it feels dangerous, but it's not as hard, scary, or dangerous as getting to the end of our lives and having to ask ourselves, what if I would have shown up? And there was a shift that happened to me after I heard that. The lights seemed a lot brighter, and it really hit me like a ton of bricks because I could imagine that moment. I could imagine that inability to go back and rewrite your life story, and the burden of that regret, but also just the gravity of not being able to change it. And so that was when I really I had a big aha moment, and I was like, okay, it's time to stop living in the mindset of the bullied teenager, and be afraid of everybody and everything, and worry about what other people think of you. It's time to be authentic and brave, and also and just bold with my life. That's what I hope to do.
Well, you're succeeding, and it will be fun to continue to watch you. And tell us, Brad, we tell us about social channels. How can we follow your travels? You mentioned a book. We'll be watching for that. Certainly, we'll share that with the podcast listeners. And Grandma Joy, when you get that tattoo, I want you to tag me.
All right.
I want to see the tattoo. Okay.
All right. Oh, shoot.
So you can follow us on Facebook at Grandma Joy's Road Trip, but also on Instagram at Grandma Joy's Road Trip. And I'm writing every day, hopefully soon. Books don't come out as quickly as you want them to, but at least now I have a fully baked cake in terms of what I want to write about. So I'm excited about it.
Oh, I look forward to reading it, and the images that you'll be able to share as well will be breathtaking. It's just such a powerful image, as you mentioned, doing the dream and doing it with Grandma Joy. Very cool. Well, I look forward to following your adventure. Thank you both for sharing your stories, and keep traveling.
Thank you. It's nice speaking with you.
It's nice to speak with you as well. Well, as we think this week about the Flip Your Script Challenge, my Flip Your Script Challenge is very simple. Name it. It's what is it for you that you've said, I'm too old. It's too late. That can't happen. That'll never happen. Figure out what that is, and then take Grandma Joy's mantra, what the heck? Let's go. My hope is Grandma Joy and Brad's story empowers you to believe you're capable of more than you think, to discover motivation, to uncover inspiration, and to find the strength to turn the page.